They laughed before they listened. They judged before they understood. That's what the world does when it stands in front of something it cannot explain. You were never designed to fit into ordinary patterns. Beneath your silence lives a force older than fear, stronger than rejection, and impossible to erase. Every setback has been shaping a soul that refuses to break. The energy you carry unsettles people because it reminds them of everything they've abandoned within themselves. Today you will discover why your presence changes rooms, why your spirit cannot be copied, and why your legendary soul was never meant to live a small life. From the very beginning, something inside you refused to blend into the crowd. You may have spent years wondering why you never felt completely at home in ordinary conversations, ordinary ambitions, or ordinary expectations, while others seemed satisfied following the same path, repeating the same routines, and chasing the same approval. Your spirit kept whispering that there had to be more. That feeling wasn't confusion, it wasn't weakness, it was awareness. The world often mistakes uniqueness for rebellion because it cannot easily categorize what refuses to be predictable. People become uncomfortable when someone naturally questions limits they have accepted without thought. They may call you difficult, distant, unrealistic, or strange, but those labels say more about their comfort with conformity than they do about your identity. Think about Mio. Every moment you tried to shrink yourself just to make others comfortable. Remember the times you laughed when you didn't find something funny, agreed when your instincts screamed otherwise, or silenced your dreams because they sounded too big for the people around you. Every compromise chipped away at your peace, not because you were stubborn, but because your soul recognizes authenticity. It knows the difference between living and merely performing. Every time you ignored that inner voice, you saw in lich a fishapa welield musiushenin, choosing okangelield de stola intershoka lideush into the old weinin, felt a quiet emptiness that no amount of external validation could fill. That emptiness was never punishment. It was a reminder that your true nature refuses to disappear, no matter how hard you try to bury it. Most people spend their entire lives chasing acceptance because they believe belonging is the highest achievement. But acceptance built on pretending is nothing more than a beautifully decorated prison. If people only celebrate the version of you that hides your truth, they are not celebrating you at all. They are applauding a mask. The cost of wearing that mask grows heavier with every passing year until one day you realize you've become a stranger to yourself. Freedom begins the moment you decide that losing fake approval is worth gaining real peace. Being different does not automatically make life easier. In many ways, it makes the journey more demanding. You will notice things others overlook. You will question systems others blindly defend. You'll feel deeply in a world, organisatorisch, actionai de rihaldige volke. Sas deus prakvarax twice, chula de dation sok, kachilis tutways, organchab pleasure, forsace, organtrike the race, organchab pleasure, volke. That often rewards emotional numbness. You'll sense opportunities where others see impossibilities. That heightened awareness can feel lonely, especially when no one around you understands what you're trying to express. But loneliness and misalignment are not the same thing. Sometimes isolation is simply the space required for transformation. Seeds don't grow because they're constantly being disturbed. They grow because they spend time hidden beneath the surface, developing roots no one can see. The people who eventually change the world rarely begin by being understood. They begin by remaining faithful to a vision that others cannot yet imagine. They walk through seasons where criticism is louder than encouragement, where doubt surrounds them from every direction, and where success feels impossibly distant. Yet something inside keeps moving forward. That invisible determination cannot be taught through comfort. It is forged through moments when quitting seems reasonable but continuing feels necessary. Every challenge strengthens your ability to trust yourself instead of waiting for permission from people who cannot see what you see. There is tremendous power in refusing to apologize for your authenticity. Not arrogance, not superiority, simply honesty. The moment you stop measuring your worth by someone else's approval, you reclaim energy that has been trapped in endless comparison. Imagine how much time you've spent wondering whether people liked you, understood you, accepted you, or agreed with you. Now imagine redirecting all that energy toward building your dreams, sharpening your skills, strengthening your character, and deepening your purpose. Your entire life begins to change because your focus finally returns to the one person responsible for your destiny, you. The world constantly encourages imitation because imitation is predictable. Predictable people are easy to influence, easy to distract, and easy to control. Original thinkers, however, create movement. They inspire questions, they challenge assumptions, they become living reminders that another way is possible. That's why authenticity often attracts resistance before it attracts respect. People may reject what they secretly admire because your courage exposes the excuses they've been using to avoid becoming their own authentic selves. Never confuse criticism with failure. Sometimes criticism is simply evidence that you're no longer living according to someone else's expectations. When people lose the ability to control your choices, they often attempt to control your confidence. They'll question your motives, minimize your progress, or predict your downfall. None of those opinions have the authority to define your future unless you hand them that authority. Confidence grows every time you choose conviction over approval. It grows when your actions align with your values instead of public opinion. It grows when your identity becomes rooted in purpose rather than popularity. Your uniqueness is not an accident waiting to be corrected. It is an advantage waiting to be embraced. Everything that once made you feel out of place may become the very reason you're able to see possibilities others miss. The qualities people criticized could become the strengths that separate you from the crowd. The sensitivity you tried to suppress may become profound wisdom. The curiosity others dismissed may become remarkable innovation. The persistence they mocked may become unstoppable resilience. What once felt like a burden may reveal itself as your greatest gift once you stop fighting against who you truly are. There comes a moment in every meaningful journey when you stop asking, "Why am I different?" and begin asking, "How can I use this difference to create something extraordinary?" That single shift transforms insecurity into purpose. Instead of hiding your light, you begin directing it. Instead of seeking permission, you begin creating opportunity. Instead, vow kopesed you wouldn't find this, you could. Fear solnen nepli was sesh you were to mernet. Of fearing rejection, you begin valuing authenticity above comfort. The person who embraces their true identity no longer wastes precious years chasing acceptance from people who were never meant to understand their path. They move with quiet certainty, knowing that destiny has never required conformity, only the courage to become exactly who they were created to be. Long before you speak a single word, people feel something about you. They may not understand it, and they may not even be able to, explain it, but they notice your presence. Human beings communicate through far more than language. Your posture, your confidence, your emotional state, your consistency, and the way you carry yourself all send signals before your voice ever enters the conversation. This is why some people command respect without demanding it, while others speak endlessly yet leave no lasting impression. Your presence is built by the person you become when no one is watching. It is shaped by your habits, intentionat, integrity, your resilience, and your willingness to remain authentic even when it would be easier to pretend. There is a reason certain people seem drawn toward you while others become strangely uncomfortable around you. Confidence acts like a mirror. Those who are secure often appreciate it because it inspires them. Those who are uncertain may interpret it as arrogance because it reminds them of the potential they have ignored within themselves. You don't have to announce your strength for people to notice it. Real strength rarely introduces itself. It simply exists. It walks calmly into the room without seeking validation, and because it isn't desperate for attention, it naturally receives it. Many people believe influence comes from having the loudest voice or the biggest audience, but history repeatedly proves otherwise. The most unforgettable individuals often speak with calm conviction instead of constant noise. They understand that certainty carries more weight than volume. When someone truly knows who they are, they stop trying to convince everyone else. They no longer chase approval because they have already settled the argument within themselves. That inner alignment creates an undeniable presence that others instinctively recognize. Think about the moments when you entered a place feeling completely certain of your direction. You didn't overthink every movement or every sentence. You weren't constantly scanning faces to see who approved of you. You simply used Kive, a kalaistede rådior. Känns det bien delishnation kata same kantar. Le distrive, kadaninga dekad sides, dala rusta dekad sides. Existed as yourself. Ironically, that is often when people became most curious about you. Authenticity attracts attention because it has become increasingly rare. In a world where so many people carefully construct versions of themselves to fit expectations, genuine confidence feels almost unfamiliar. It stands out not because it tries to, but because it refuses to become something it isn't. Your energy also reflects what you repeatedly practice in private. Every challenge you've overcome, every tu difficulty peka promise you've kept to yourself, every difficult decision you've made with integrity quietly shapes the way you carry yourself. Confidence isn't built through compliments, it's built through evidence. Every time you do something difficult, you collect another reason to trust yourself. That trust changes the way you look at obstacles. Instead of asking whether you're capable, you begin asking how you'll solve the problem. Others notice that shift because certainty has a language of its own. Vissa then chive indicus and shock of bestives that empatives os enteva, njef tikoba does eudades defa, njef tikoba does eudades defa, njef tikoba does eudades defa. Doesn't mean every person will admire your presence. Some will misunderstand it. Some will project their own fears onto you. Some will invent stories because they cannot explain why you make them uncomfortable. That's perfectly normal. Not everyone responds positively to authenticity because authenticity removes excuses. When someone sees another person living with purpose, discipline, and conviction, they are reminded of the choices they continue postponing. Rather than confronting themselves, it is often easier to criticize the one who reflects what is possible. Never confuse silence with weakness. The strongest presence is often the quietest. A person who constantly seeks attention usually reveals insecurity rather than confidence. Someone who truly knows their value doesn't need to dominate every conversation or prove themselves at every opportunity. They listen carefully, they speak intentionally, they remain composed under pressure because they understand that emotional control is one of the greatest demonstrations of strength. People remember how you make them feel far longer than they remember the exact words you used. There is also incredible power in consistency. Anyone can appear confident for a single day. Anyone can sound inspiring during favorable circumstances. The real test comes when life becomes difficult. Can you remain grounded when plans fall apart? Can you continue acting with integrity when no reward is guaranteed? Can you encourage others while facing your own uncertainty? Those moments define your presence far more than public victories ever could. Character revealed during adversity leaves a deeper impression than confidence displayed during comfort. The energy you bring into every situation becomes part of your reputation. If you consistently bring clarity instead of confusion, solutions instead of excuses, discipline instead of procrastination, and hope instead of despair, people begin associating you with stability. They trust you because your actions repeatedly match your words. Trust cannot be demanded, it must be earned through repeated demonstrations of reliability. Over time, your presence becomes a source of reassurance because people know what you represent. Never underestimate the influence of the example you set. Someone may never tell you that watching your perseverance gave them courage to keep going. They may never admit that your calm response during chaos taught them emotional strength. They may never was sees deeply winning strice. Explain that your refusal to compromise your values inspired them to rethink their own decisions. Influence often happens quietly. Seeds are planted through ordinary moments that appear insignificant at the time. Years later, those moments become turning points in someone else's story. Your greatest influence will never come from pretending to be extraordinary. It will come from consistently becoming more honest, more disciplined, more compassionate, more courageous, and more resilient than you were yesterday. Presence is not a performance. It is the natural result of a life lived with purpose. When your thoughts, actions, and values move in the same direction, people sense a rare kind of certainty that cannot be manufactured. They recognize someone who no longer depends on applause to keep moving forward. someone who understands that true power begins within and quietly transforms every room they enter. No one willingly asks for pain, yet some of the greatest transformations begin the full ton. Our theaterexarenifullness missions 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 begin the full ton. Our theaterexarenifullness moment life refuses to go according to plan. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every failure, and every season of uncertainty has carried a lesson hidden beneath the surface. At the time, it may have felt like the universe was working against you. You questioned your worth, your direction, and even your purpose. You wondered why certain doors closed despite your best efforts, or why people you trusted became the source of your deepest wounds. Looking back, however, you begin to notice a porcus, waso, anesafasi porkids, shok, othoborthals, yetinkorted supros, wifulclis to withast, koladivitu, arth, pattern. The moments that hurt the most often became the moments that changed you the most. Pain has a way of stripping away illusions. It reveals who truly stands beside you when circumstances become difficult. It exposes relationships built on convenience instead of loyalty. It teaches you that not everyone who applauds your success will remain present during your struggles. That realization can feel heartbreaking, but it is also liberating. Once you stop expecting permanence from temporary people, you become far more careful about where you invest your time, your energy, and your trust. Think about the version of yourself that existed before your greatest challenges. Perhaps you were more concerned about pleasing everyone. Perhaps you tolerated disrespect because you feared being alone. Perhaps you waited endlessly for permission to pursue your dreams. Then life forced you into situations where those habits could no longer survive. The pressure became unbearable, and something inside you finally changed. You discovered that survival sometimes requires letting go of who you used to be. Growth often begins where comfort ends. Every difficult experience leaves behind a choice. You can become bitter, allowing your wounds to define your future, or you can become wiser, allowing your experiences to strengthen your character. The event itself cannot always be controlled, but your response always belongs to you. Two people can walk through similar hardships and emerge completely different. One may carry resentment for decades, while the other carries resilience. The difference is not found in the pain they experienced, but in the meaning they chose to give it. Resilience is never developed during easy seasons. It is built through repetition. Every time life knocked you down and you found the courage to stand again, you became stronger than before. Every setback forced you to discover abilities you didn't know you possessed. Every obstacle demanded creativity. Folibors trebelliars, disincubation, folius volendiast, patience, discipline, or courage that comfort never required. Without realizing it, you were training for a future that needed a stronger version of you. Many people spend years trying to erase painful chapters from their lives, believing those memories only represent weakness. But your scars are evidence of survival, not failure. They remind you that you endured situations that once seemed impossible to overcome. They prove that your story did not end where your suffering began. Instead of hiding those experiences in shame, recognize them as chapters that shaped your perspective. Wisdom is often born where certainty collapses. Compassion grows where suffering is being understood. Strength develops where surrender once seemed inevitable. One of the greatest gifts pain offers is clarity. It forces you to evaluate what truly matters. Suddenly, superficial approval loses its importance. Material success without peace becomes meaningless. Endless comparison begins to feel exhausting. You start valuing genuine relationships over popularity, purpose over comfort, and authenticity over performance. The things you once chased desperately no longer hold the same power because adversity has rearranged your priorities. Pain also teaches patience. In moments of suffering, everyone wants immediate answers, instant healing, and quick solutions, yet some lessons cannot be rushed. Just as a broken bone requires time to heal properly, emotional and mental growth demand patience. Saying, "All dawns, all 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 to escape discomfort too quickly often prevents the deeper transformation from taking place. There are seasons when progress is invisible, when it feels as though nothing is changing. You're beneath the surface. Your perspective is evolving, your resilience is strengthening, and your character is becoming more refined than ever before. There will always be people who judge your journey without understanding what it required. They see your confidence today but never witness the nights filled with doubt. They admire your discipline but overlook the countless failures that taught you persistence. They respect your calmness but have no idea how many storms you survived to develop that peace. Never allow someone's incomplete understanding of your story to diminish the value of everything you've overcome. One day, the experiences that once made you cry may become the very experiences that allow you to encourage someone else. Your testimony will carry weight because it was earned through struggle rather than imagination. People are inspired not by perfection, but by proof that transformation is possible. They don't need someone who has never fallen. They need someone who knows what it means to rise again despite every reason to remain on the ground. Your greatest teacher has never been comfort. Comfort maintains who you already are. Challenge reveals who you can become. Every hardship has sharpened your judgment, strengthened your spirit, expanded your empathy, and deepened your case. Appreciation for life. The obstacles that once looked like barriers were quietly becoming stepping stones. The losses that felt unbearable were making room for something more meaningful. The delays that frustrated you were developing the patience necessary for lasting success. When you stop viewing pain as an enemy and begin recognizing it as a demanding teacher, your entire perspective changes. You no longer ask why every challenge appeared in your life. Instead, you begin asking what each are per the drive. Ak folta wisias traves. Ion adices orgrubeshta are per the drive. Ak folta wisias traves. Ion adices orgrubeshta are per the drive. Ak folta wisias traves. Ion adices orgrubeshta are per the drive. Ak folta wisias traves. Ion adices orgrubeshta are per the drive. Ak folta wisias traves. Ion adices orgrubeshta are per the drive. Ak folta wisias traves. Ion adices orgrubeshta are per the drive. Ak folta wisias traves. Ion adices orgrubeshta are per the drive. Ak folta wisias traves. Ion adices orgrubeshta are per the drive. Experience was preparing you to become. That question transforms suffering into wisdom, setbacks into strength, and broken moments into the foundation of an unshakable character that no hardship can ever take away. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that protecting their energy is selfish. They give endlessly, explain endlessly, forgive endlessly, and sacrifice endlessly until there is nothing left of themselves to give. They mistake exhaustion for kindness and people-pleasing for love. But a soul that is constantly drained cannot create, cannot lead, and cannot inspire. If your inner world is always being invaded by negativity, manipulation, and unnecessary chaos, your greatest potential remains locked away beneath emotional clutter. Protecting your peace is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of wisdom. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your life. Some people enter with genuine intentions, while others arrive carrying hidden agendas. They are attracted via solent size and charters the can fidici is not of duesos and the freely as solenta fia solent size enuas eyes bila fork Shria dia solemn size and 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 dia solemn size to your kindness, your patience, your optimism, or your strength, not because they admire those qualities, but because they want to benefit from them without contributing anything in return. They become comfortable taking your attention, your time, and your emotional energy while giving very little back. The longer you ignore this imbalance, the more you begin to feel disconnected from yourself. Your soul was never meant to become a resource that everyone else consumes without appreciation. Many of you without tubernita becomes navika, city of the pleasure that comes quad dead, musinks to be knee stores night to be uneastoli at frukitiers ni other orbs. City of the pleasure that comes quad dead, musinks to be knee stores night to be uneastoli at frukitiers ni other orbs. City of the pleasure that comes quad dead, musinks to be knee stores night to be uneastoli at frukitiers ni other orbs. City of the pleasure that comes quad dead, musinks to be knee stores night to be uneastoli at frukitiers ni other orbs. City of the pleasure that comes quad dead, musinks to be knee stores night to be uneastoli at frukitiers ni other orbs. City of the pleasure that comes quad dead, musinks to be knee stores night to be uneastoli. People fear setting boundaries because they worry about disappointing others. They believe saying no will make them appear rude, cold, or uncaring. But every time you say yes to something that violates your values, your priorities, or your peace, you are quietly saying no to yourself. You are sacrificing your own well-being to preserve someone else's temporary comfort. That is not kindness. That is self-abandonment. Healthy boundaries are not walls built to isolate you from the world. They are rihais. A rare few protect their energy, sharpen their focus, and build a force within that cannot be bought, stolen, or controlled. Doors that allow the right people to enter while keeping destructive influences outside. Pay attention to how people make you feel after spending time with them. There are individuals who leave you feeling encouraged, inspired, and motivated to become a better version of yourself. Their presence brings clarity instead of confusion. They celebrate your victories without jealousy and challenge you without disrespect. Then there are those who leave you emotionally exhausted. Every conversation revolves around complaints, criticism, gossip, or unnecessary drama. They constantly pull your focus toward negativity until you begin carrying burdens that never belong to you. The difference between these relationships shapes the direction of your life more than you may realize. Your environment quietly influences your mindset every single day. If you surround yourself with people who constantly doubt, complain, and settle for less, their beliefs slowly begin to affect your own thinking. Limiting beliefs spread just as easily as empowering ones. That is why choosing your circle wisely is one of the most important decisions you will ever make. The people closest to you either strengthen your vision or slowly weaken it. They either remind you of your potential or repeatedly encourage you to shrink yourself into something smaller and more comfortable. Protecting your soul also means becoming selective about the voices you allow into your mind. Every day you are surrounded by opinions, headlines, social media comparisons, endless criticism, and distractions competing for your attention. If you consume negativity without limits, eventually your inner dialogue begins to reflect it. Fear replaces confidence, doubt replaces purpose, anxiety replaces peace. What enters your mind repeatedly eventually shapes the way you see yourself and the world around you. This is why discipline is not only about your actions, it is also about guarding your thoughts. There will always be the solar, the tikolum, people who misunderstand your boundaries. The moment you stop allowing yourself to be manipulated, some will accuse you of changing. The moment you refuse to tolerate disrespect, some will call you difficult. The moment you begin protecting your peace, Those who benefited from your lack of boundaries may become upset. Let them be upset. Their disappointment is not proof that your decision was wrong. Sometimes people only become angry because they can no longer control the version of you that caulk. Always put their needs before your own. Self-respect grows every time you honor your values instead of abandoning them to gain approval. It grows when you walk away from situations that repeatedly damage your confidence. It grows when you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. It grows when you realize that silence is often more powerful than endless arguments. You do not need to attend every conflict you are invited into. Some battles are won simply by refusing to were too instant to drive within a participate. There is tremendous strength in choosing peace over chaos. This does not mean avoiding responsibility or pretending problems do not exist. It means refusing to allow unnecessary conflict to become your permanent emotional home. Calmness is not weakness, it is emotional mastery. The person who remains composed under pressure often possesses greater strength than the person who reacts impulsively to every challenge. Emotional discipline protects your vision because it prevents temporary emotions from making permanent decisions. As you continue growing, your standards will naturally change. Conversations that once entertained you may begin to feel empty. Relationships that once seemed essential may no longer align with the person you are becoming. If it is not a correlation anyway, why Venice wish we were it because your definition of success has matured? Do not fear this evolution. Or midis. Growth always requires leaving behind environments that no longer nourish your spirit. Holding on to everything from your past only delays the future you are meant to create. Your soul carries dreams, purpose, creativity, resilience, and the ability to influence lives in ways you cannot yet imagine. Those gifts deserve protection. They deserve an environment where they can grow instead of constantly defending themselves against negativity. Every decision you make about who receives your time, your attention, your trust, and your emotional investment either strengthens that inner this world or slowly weakens it. The more intentionally you guard your peace, your integrity, and your self-respect, the more your life begins reflecting the quiet confidence of someone who understands that their greatest responsibility is not pleasing everyone around them, but remaining faithful to the extraordinary person they were created to become. There comes a moment in every extraordinary life when waiting has to end. Waiting for confidence, waiting for permission, waiting for perfect timing, waiting for someone else to recognize your value before you recognize it yourself. Too many people spend years standing at the edge of their potential, convinced that one more achievement, one more compliment, or one more opportunity will finally make them believe in themselves. But confidence has never been a reward handed to those who wait. It is built by those who move before certainty arrives. The moment you stop asking the world to validate your existence, you begin unlocking a power that has always lived within you. The greatest battle you will ever fight is not against critics, competitors, or difficult circumstances. It is against the voice inside your own mind that whispers you are not enough. That voice remembers every failure, every rejection, every embarrassing mistake, and every moment someone made you question your worth. It collects evidence from your past and tries to convince you that your future must look the same. But your past is a classroom, not a prison. The lessons you learned were never meant to become chains that keep you from moving forward. They were meant to become wisdom that guides your next step. Imagine what becomes possible the day you stop introducing yourself through your limitations. Instead of saying, "I'm not experienced enough," you begin asking, "What can I learn?" Instead of believing, "I've failed too many times," you begin realizing, "I've survived every challenge so far." Instead of focusing on what you lack, you begin building with what you already possess. That single shift changes everything because your attention determines your direction. Whatever you consistently focus on eventually expands in your life. Evade your doubts, and they grow stronger. Evade your purpose, and your confidence begins to rise. There is incredible power hidden inside small daily victories. Most people expect transformation to arrive through one dramatic event, but real change is usually much quieter. It happens every time you keep a promise to yourself, every early morning when you choose discipline over comfort, every difficult conversation you face instead of avoiding, every fear you confront despite feeling uncertain. These seemingly ordinary decisions slowly reshape the way you see yourself. Confidence is not created by thinking differently. It is created by repeatedly acting differently until your actions become undeniable proof of your capability. Your identity is constantly being shaped by the stories you tell yourself. If you repeatedly describe yourself as unlucky, incapable, or unworthy, your mind begins searching for evidence to support those beliefs. But if you choose to see yourself as someone who learns, adapts, perseveres, and grows stronger through every challenge, your perspective changes. You begin noticing opportunities instead of obstacles. You start interpreting setbacks as preparation instead of punishment. The circumstances around you may remain the same for a while, but the person experiencing them becomes completely different. Many people underestimate the strength they already possess because they have become too familiar with it. You don't notice your own resilience because you've been carrying it for years. You overlook your courage because you've survived challenges that once seemed impossible. You dismiss your wisdom because it was earned gradually through countless experiences. Yet if someone else had walked through everything you've endured, you would probably admire their perseverance. Offer yourself the same respect. Stop minimizing the qualities that have kept you moving forward. The fact that you are still standing after everything you've faced is evidence that your spirit is far stronger than your fears. Fear has an interesting way of disguising itself as logic. It tells you to wait until you know everything before taking action. It encourages you to remain comfortable because comfort feels safe. It convinces you that avoiding risk will protect you from sense failure. But what it rarely tells you is that avoiding risk also prevents growth. Every meaningful achievement requires stepping into uncertainty. Every remarkable journey begins before the destination becomes visible. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not fearless. They simply refuse to let fear become the author of their decisions. The world often rewards those who trust themselves before anyone else does. This does not mean ignoring advice or pretending to know everything. It means recognizing that no one else can live your purpose for you. Others may offer guidance, encouragement, or criticism, but the responsibility for your future remains entirely yours. At some point, you must become the person who believes in your vision even when no audience is applauding. You must continue moving even when progress feels slow. You must remain committed even when results take longer than expected. Confidence also requires accepting that perfection is an illusion. Waiting until every detail is flawless often becomes another form of procrastination. Progress belongs to those who are willing to begin imperfectly, learn continuously, and improve consistently. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master once struggled. Every successful individual has a history filled with mistakes that taught lessons impossible to learn through comfort alone. The difference is that they refuse to let temporary failure define their permanent identity. As your confidence grows, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop comparing your journey to everyone else's. You realize that another person's success does not diminish your own potential. Instead of competing for validation, you focus on becoming better than you were yesterday. Peace replaces insecurity because your attention shifts from proving yourself to improving yourself. That quiet confidence becomes impossible to imitate because it is rooted in experience rather than appearance. The power within you has never depended on applause, popularity, or external recognition. It has always existed beneath the layers of fear, doubt, and hesitation that life placed around it. Every challenge you overcome removes another layer. Every courageous decision reveals more of the person you were always capable of becoming. When you stop waiting for permission, stop negotiating with your fears, and finally choose to trust the strength already living inside you, you awaken a version of yourself that no obstacle, no criticism, and no setback can ever silence. One day your name will no longer be remembered because of the things you owned, the titles you collected, or the money you earned. Those things have their place, but they are temporary. What lasts is the impact you leave on the hearts, minds, and lives of other people. Every decision you make today is quietly writing the story that others will remember tomorrow. The question is not whether you will leave a legacy. Every person does. The real question is whether your legacy will inspire people to become stronger, kinder, wiser, and more courageous, or whether it will disappear the moment you are gone. Too many people spend their lives chasing success while forgetting significance. Success asks, "What can I gain?" Significance asks, "What can I give?" Success often focuses on personal achievement, but significance multiplies itself through the lives you influence. A person who helps others discover their own strength creates a ripple effect. It continues long after a single conversation has ended. Every encouraging word, every act of integrity, every example of perseverance becomes part of a legacy that reaches farther than you may ever witness. The most remarkable people rarely set out to become legends in the eyes of the world. They simply committed themselves to living according to principles that never changed regardless of circumstances. They remained honest when dishonesty was easier. They stayed disciplined when excuses possible certstias agos this I te seemed justified. They chose compassion when bitterness appeared more convenient. They kept moving forward when giving up would have been understandable. These daily choices may seem ordinary in the moment, but over time they shape an extraordinary life. Character is not built during grand public moments. It is formed through countless private decisions that no one else sees. Never underestimate the influence of consistency. One act of kindness may brighten someone's day, but a lifetime of time is takes. Control word of YC Oshakot Smotum Skerns. Integrity can transform generations. Children learn by watching more than listening. Friends remember your actions more than your promises. Communities grow stronger because ordinary people repeatedly choose responsibility over convenience. The example you set becomes permission for others to raise their own standards. Whether you realize it or not, someone is always observing how you respond to pressure, disappointment, success, and failure. Your response teaches more than your words ever could. There will be moments when you feel as though your efforts are unnoticed. You may wonder whether your discipline matters when no one applauds. You may question whether your honesty is worthwhile when others seem to succeed through shortcuts. In those moments, remember that the strongest foundations are built long before anyone admires the finished structure. Trees spend years developing roots beneath the surface before they reach impressive heights. Likewise, your unseen commitment to isquitspiel, Ura fáðicos jölenquailtis der vonipoctes, nefrurzia matcatiafis one of arcis, homenigo socolacest en casorse a fieldi or field portinio, dale, your unseen commitment to isquitspiel animais. Of rior enelatsiv, excellence is quietly preparing a future that cannot yet be measured by public recognition. A meaningful legacy is never created by perfection. People do not connect with flawless individuals because perfection feels distant and unreachable. They connect with those who faced fear yet continued anyway, who experienced failure yet refused to surrender, who carried pain yet chose compassion instead of resentment. Your struggles do not disqualify you from making an impact. They often become the very force shunning tends to rend rebellion horrorcell. The scene your story carries credibility. When people see someone who has overcome adversity without losing their integrity, they begin believing transformation is possible for themselves as well. As you grow, remember that influence is a responsibility, not a privilege. Every word you speak has the potential to either build confidence or destroy it. Every decision either strengthens trust or weakens it. Every opportunity to lead is also an opportunity to serve. Real leadership is not about being admired from a distance. It is about lifting others high enough that they begin recognizing the greatness within themselves. The strongest leaders create more leaders instead of more followers because they understand that lasting influence is measured by what continues after they are gone. There is also wisdom in recognizing that your purpose extends beyond personal comfort. A life spent avoiding every challenge may feel safe, but it rarely becomes memorable. The people who leave lasting marks in history, on families, on communities, and on individual lives are those who accepted responsibility when it would have been easier to remain silent. They acted according to conviction instead of convenience. They stood firm when compromise seemed attractive. They understood that temporary discomfort is often the price of permanent impact. Your legacy is being written even on ordinary days. It is written in the patience you show your family. It is written in the respect you offer strangers who can do nothing for you. It is written in the promises you keep when breaking them would be easier. It is written in the habits you practice, the standards you refuse to lower, and the courage you display when facing uncertainty. Greatness is rarely the result of one extraordinary moment. More often, it is the accumulation of thousands of ordinary moments lived with extraordinary intention. Never allow comparison to distract you from your own assignment. Someone else's journey was never meant to mock us fullens too, or resist strive colons turnings, and build a fullens turnings, and build a fullens too, or resist strive colons turnings, and build a fullens too, or resist strive colons turnings, and build a fullens 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 turnings, and build a fullens. Become the blueprint for your gifts, your experiences, your challenges, and your opportunities are uniquely positioned to create an impact that only you can make. When you stop competing for attention and begin competing with the person you were yesterday, your life gains a deeper sense of purpose. You no longer seek applause because your motivation comes from becoming someone worthy of trust, respect, and admiration through consistent action rather than temporary performance. At the end, mixtasis distractido, or rindi sum and dicas, edhisio, 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 or rindi sum and dicas. Of your journey, the greatest achievement will not be the recognition you received, but the lives you changed through your example. Long after material possessions have faded and public opinions have shifted, your courage, your integrity, your compassion, and your unwavering commitment to becoming your highest self will continue echoing through the people you inspired. That is the kind of legacy no obstacle can erase, no criticism can diminish, and no passage of time can ever truly take away.